Hello everyone, it's Habiba here. Welcome back to my channel. So happy to join you again for another video. So in a recent video, I spoke about how to spot a fake friend. I spoke about 3 signs of a fake friend. So in today's video, I'm going to speak to you about how to recover from a fake friendship. If that friend has caused harm, has done some damage, how do you now recover? And perhaps I should have said this part before, but what do you do if you discover that you have a fake friend? So perhaps they haven't yet had a chance to cause any damage, but you've discovered that you have a fake friend. You've caught a whiff, even just a whiff of something fake. What do you do? Alright, so before we jump into it, if you're new here, please remember to subscribe to this channel and to check out my other videos on the channel. So I do book reviews, socio-political commentary, politics in Africa. However, I really love these topics on motivation, personal development, as well as spirituality. So I'll be mixing in some of these videos alongside the other videos. And I recently started an online store, so please check that out. There should be some product links popping up under the video. Please let me know if you see a link to a store popping up in the video. I have an Amazon store, however, YouTube required that I create it on, I think it's Fourth Wall, where I created the store that you'll see popping up at the bottom. So please remember to support, to buy this It's a canvas bag, and then you'll see the African kente embroidery along the top. You'll really love this bag. So please make sure to check out the store and you can get one of these. Alright, so let's jump into the video. So I'm going to give you 4 best practices for when this happens. So the first thing to do is to cut off that friend. Now you've discovered it's an enemy. So to cut off that person immediately. And you don't have to say to them, I'm cutting you off, never talk to me again. It doesn't have to be like that. You can simply begin to pull back, distance yourself from the person. When they call, stop picking up. If they invite you to things, decline, don't go. So it can be as simple as pulling back. However, in some cases, because you do have some people who are very insistent and just, I don't know, just weird energy. They don't like you. Perhaps it's a kind of love-hate relationship, but even so, they want to stay in touch with you. They always want to be in your space. They always want your energy, or they want to somehow be in your energy. And perhaps you've given them signs, or you told them in a very gentle way at first, but they don't get it. So there are situations where you will have to say to the person, basically, leave me alone. I never want to talk to you again. Yeah, sometimes you do have to make it crystal clear. Okay, so that's best practice number 1. Once damage has occurred, you just cut them off immediately. This is a must. This is a must, so they don't cause any more damage. And especially where perhaps it's been a betrayal, and I spoke of different examples in a previous video, like either the video right before this one or 2 previous videos to this one. I spoke of examples like betrayal. Perhaps there was some sort of emotional betrayal. So where someone has caused emotional harm, you really can't have them in your space. That means you're, I don't know, you're traumatized or something, or you have some kind of toxic bond to them. If they've caused some sort of harm, you must cut them off immediately. Number 2 best practice is to stay private. Yes, stay private. The enemy cannot attack what it doesn't know. The enemy cannot attack what it doesn't know. Stay private. Don't talk too much. And okay, let me just give a little side story or some side information from my life. I'm actually a private person. I'm not the type, I'm not the kind of always talking type, oversharing type. That's never been me. However, I am, or I was the type of person to confide in maybe 1 or 2 people, 1 or 2 very close friends, very close female friends, like a best friend who I've known or who I had known for many years. I was that type, to confide and to confide deeply, in this one person or in these 2 people. That was me, right? Because I've always had a small, close circle. Even though I may know a lot of people, I've never been the type to be so talkative and just sharing all my business and sharing my whole life with a lot of people. I've always kept it small, you know? However, even so, I had to learn a lesson because sometimes it's that one person or those two people you think are your best friends who can betray you, you know? Um, so stay private, even with someone you think is a best friend or you think is very close, especially if the subject is something very close to your heart. And if it's something that's still growing, maybe you have a love interest, maybe you're about to embark on a program of study, maybe you've just received a job offer, it's something that's still so fresh, you don't have to rush to this best friend and share deeply with them, right? Or it could even be an emotional trauma you have, or just be careful. Be careful. I won't get too much into examples, but be careful, even if it's someone very close to you, someone you think is a best friend. And I hope people watching this don't think I'm promoting some kind of how should I put it, extreme guarded behavior or closed off behavior that's unhealthy. Maybe some people will come in the comments and say, oh, but you need at least one or two people to confide in. Perhaps. But even so, be careful. Closeness in a friendship doesn't have to mean sharing everything that's so important to you immediately, you know, immediately. Okay, perhaps I could give some examples. I'll think about it. But let's go to the next best practice that I have for you. Okay, so number 3 best practice is to keep it surface. Keep it surface. What do I mean? When you're having conversations with people, even the ones, as I just mentioned, the ones you think you're very close with, even so, keep it surface. Sometimes you don't need to go too deep. Or, okay, this is important. Listen up. If you've caught a whiff, what do I mean by a whiff? Just a little small sign, something very subtle that has indicated to you that this person could be fake. They've said something weird, right? And this also ties into discernment, which I may speak about in another piece. Your discernment needs to be very high, people. Very on high discernment. And especially the older you get, let me tell you, you need strong discernment. There's no excuse for naivety is not an excuse. Let me put it this way. The older you get, naivety is not an excuse, right? And don't beat yourself up. I'm saying many things at once. Anyway, I can elaborate on these topics in videos to come. Don't beat yourself up, because sometimes it's part of the journey, having certain betrayals and this and that. If you've overshared or something with someone you thought was a friend but who turned out to be an enemy. But the older you get, these things should not be happening. I'm sorry. This is where you now strengthen your discernment. You ask God to increase you in discernment. When I pray to Allah, very often I ask for basira. You know, basira, this is discernment. I say, Ya Rabbi, please increase me in basira. This has been a prayer I've had for years now, you know. I know in my early 20s, I went through a lot. There's a lot I learned in my early 20s, because there were friendship betrayals, emotional damage. It really hurt. It wounded me deeply. And so keep it surface. If you've caught a whiff, even just a whiff, something slight that told you this person could be an enemy, or maybe they're not an outright enemy, but you have a friend, I don't know, there's something that's not too right, that's not so strong, and they could become a weak link. And now cause some kind of harm if you're not careful. You're fortunate if you've caught a whiff, like a subtle sign. So now once you catch a subtle sign, you keep it surface. When you're out hanging out with your friend, you go out to eat, you're at each other's homes, maybe, you keep it surface. And especially if they're trying to dig for information about your personal life, you keep it surface. You keep the conversation about politics, about stuff happening in the community, maybe social issues, the weather, things like that. Keep it surface. Think twice before you speak. Yes, you must think twice before you speak. Yes. And let me tell you, Muslim people, please, just have this as a best practice for yourself. Do not confide in non-mahrams. If you're a woman, do not confide ever in non-mahram men. Men, do not confide in non-mahram women ever. I'm not telling you this from experience, no. I've never had this issue myself, thank God. But I've seen other people, and it's just not good. And you may think, Muslim people, like if you're a practicing Muslim, we're concerned about fitna, fitna, right? Avoiding fitna and so forth. Yeah, for the non-Muslims, maybe you wonder what that is. I'll put some text, but it's just basically transgressions, major trials, sins, like that. That's fitna. So some Muslims say, oh, but I wasn't sinning, I wasn't doing this and that, like the sins, the major sins Allah has told us to avoid. But sometimes you spoke too much to a non-mahram, okay? Think twice before you speak. It may not have been outright sin, but you spoke too much. Why are you confiding in a non-mahram? Men, if you need to speak to a woman or something, you have a mom, or maybe she's deceased, Allah have mercy on her. Just find somebody in your family, okay? And mahram in your family. Even that, be careful, especially if you're married, because then, maybe you tell your sister or your female cousins, those are non-mahrams. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep on this topic of mahram and non-mahram, but guys, don't confide in the opposite gender. I don't believe in that. I've never really believed in that. Be careful, right? Be careful, especially as you move into the future. You don't want people who shouldn't know things about you. You don't want them knowing things about you, emotional things about you, because our emotions are important. Emotions are important. Not because they're immaterial does it mean they're not important. We are very much shaped by our emotions, and the last thing you want is someone weaponizing something you shared, like an emotional experience or wound or trauma or whatever that you shared. The last thing you want is someone weaponizing that. Let's take a break. I'll be back at you.
Friends, Munyal is now on Amazon. We officially launched our Munyal home store. Be sure to check us out to support us on Amazon. You can get some of our lovely products.